Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Darshawn McAway. You're tuned in to Wild Podcast. By all means, go to wildpodcast.me. That's WOWPODCAST.me. Today we have a special guest on the line. We have Larry Smith III. He's the author of The Other Side of Ecstasy. Larry, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Great.
That's great. So tell me about this book, The Other Side of Ecstasy.
Well, it was published last year around July of last year, and basically it's a story that took place about 15 years ago when I was living in a small town called Killeen, Texas. And I was living there, and I was at a very quiet moment in my life where I was new to drugs and things like that of that nature. And the reason why I titled it The Other Side of Ecstasy is because one night I went out to a club, and, I had a roommate, and he actually, put a little peer pressure towards me about, trying the drug. And so I went out looking for it, and I met a guy in the corner store, and I asked him, where can I find, ecstasy? And he actually reached in his pocket and, sold me the drug. And I went home and, tried it for the first time, and like 45 seconds later, I was in this, different atmosphere that I couldn't recognize. I mean, of course I got a regular feeling of a high from the drug, but almost 2 weeks later I was getting the same, effects of the drug, and I wasn't taking anything. So that's when I found out that I was having a chemical imbalance from ecstasy.
While experiencing that chemical imbalance, where did your life go from there?
Completely downhill. I went home. My brothers and my cousin came to pick me up from the town, and I went back to Houston, and my life became a complete mess. My parents, I really didn't recognize anyone. I rarely, went outside of the house. I always stayed in the house a lot for about almost a year because I knew who people were that were close to me, but I just couldn't, recognize truly who they were to me anymore because everything was different. My smell, my taste, my feel, everything was different because of the side effects of what happened.
So when did everything get back to normal for you?
To completely normal, I would say around about 2006 or 2007, but I went out to a city, Las Vegas, after everything was happened, but everything was completely back to normal around about 2006 or 2007. Yeah, that part of my life was a mess, and yeah, things actually got back to normal, I would say, when I left, because I landed in Vegas when I got off the bus. I landed in Vegas, and because I got away from everything, things became a little bit more clearer for me. My head got clearer,
Does this book guide people to, stay away from drugs? Is it a self-help, or is it really just a story about your experience and what you plan on doing different?
It's more of an experience to let people, young and adults, know that to be aware, be very aware of peer pressure and what, ecstasy can do to a person, because that's the message in it.
So let me ask you, what was your background growing up?
Well, actually growing up, I was a normal kid. I used to go to the YMCA a lot. I didn't really have, I wasn't really, in and out of hospitals like I am now. But I was a normal kid. I was happy, going to school every day and, loving life, which I do now. But I'm just telling you the difference between then and now,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what made you want to become a writer?
A lot of pain and affliction. I was looking for a way out. One day I was on a computer. I believe it was back in '07 or something like that. I was on a computer, and I seen a lot of my friends from high school they finished, graduated, and they went off to school and got degrees, and I was just doing anything. I wasn't doing anything with my life, and I said, I got to do something, and then after I seen that, I slowly, I went to a Walgreens and I went and bought a tablet and an ink pen, and I just started writing poetry. And next thing you know, I never, stopped writing ever since then.
What do you want to accomplish as an author?
What I want to accomplish as an author, I want to be great, but to a certain extent, I want my message to help people, but at the same time, I want to be a successful author, and reach a higher peak as far as writing. I want to go off into, writing TV series and, things of that nature and movies and stuff like that. But right now I'm dealing with, specifically with books.
So do you have a website where people can purchase your book?
Well, they can go to lulu.com and purchase the book. It's on Lulu and also on barnesandnoble.com.
Well, I'm your host, Darshawn McAway. You're tuned in to Wow Podcast. We're speaking to Larry Smith III about his book, The Other Side of Ecstasy. By all means, go to Barnes & Nobles or Lulu.com to pick up this title. Once again, that's The Other Side of Ecstasy by author Larry Smith III. Larry, thank you so much for this interview. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.